Welcome to episode 3 of the Self-Sabotage Files. Today we're talking about the all or nothing tactic being one of the most classic self-sabotage tactics that you are doing to yourself. The all or nothing tactic comes from this perfectionism illusion that you're a perfectionist. You're not a perfectionist. You actually just love doing nothing. So what you do in your mind, and you don't recognize you're doing this, so I'm not talking down at you. I'm just warning you from your own mind. You set a linear goal, and a linear goal is something that only has two end results, right? So let's say you want to take up cooking and you want to get really freaking good at it, and you're watching all these damn TikToks that make it super romanticized to have an unbelievably productive day. People are waking up at 6 a.m, they're going to the gym, they're feeding their dog, and then they're walking their dog, and then they're showering, and they're doing an amazing skincare routine, and they're heading to work, and then they come back from work, and then they cook for themselves and their family, and then they journal, and then they stretch, and they go to a yoga class at 8 p.m., and you're just like, oh my God, how is this person doing all of those things? And so you set a goal for yourself, and it's a linear one. So there's only two possible end results. The two results are I either accomplish it or I don't. And this is massively dangerous to the human mind, right? Because you are setting yourself up for failure. You're taking on a hobby that should just be done for the sake of being done. And you're setting this two-pronged possibility at the end of if I want to take up running, but I don't run forever, then I've failed. If I want to try cooking more often, but I don't forever become a chef for my own home, then I've failed. And that makes no sense. So here's the solution before we wrap up this episode. Pick a linear goal that you want and change it into an experimental goal. An experimental goal has multiple end results because the overarching objective is to simply collect data. Right? That's what an experiment is. If you go back to science class when we were in 5th grade, we were always taught that an experiment was simply to learn, right? So if you want to take up running, cooking, if you want to improve your skincare routine, if you want to, get a gym membership, stop putting this end result as like this massive change that needs to happen in your life, or otherwise I've failed. Because this is what fuels the perfectionism mindset. This is what makes you think, well, if I'm not going to excel at that, if I'm not going to become a complete master at that topic, then I'm just not going to do it. Do you know what happens when you keep saying no to things unless you become a master of them? You're never going to do anything. So rather than becoming someone who sometimes goes to the gym and knows enough about cooking to sometimes cook up a meal and knows enough about yoga to go to a class maybe once a month, that type of generalism is great. You don't need to be a master at everything. When you become a generalist at a ton of stuff, you actually become much more well-rounded as a person. You have a lot more experience. You know what you want to chase and what you don't want to chase. Start taking those linear goals that you think need to be life-defining and you need to become a master at them and just change it into an experimental goal. Give it a shot. See what happens. Remind yourself that your objective is strictly to learn, to gather data. Do I like yoga? Are there different studios I want to go to? Do I like cooking? Are there different ingredients I can experiment with? Experimental goals will get rid of your perfectionism because perfectionism doesn't exist. You're simply scared of doing things a little bit of the way, even though that's exactly what you should love doing.